Welcome to our YouTube channel, In Our Basement. My name is Niels.
And I'm Gail. We're going to be having conversations and share our thoughts about things that we're really passionate about.
And just before we get started, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
And if you like the content, then feel free to share it on your social media platform.
What? Oh yeah, welcome to another episode of In Our Basement. You know what they say, what is it, when the baby's sleeping, the parent should be sleeping or something?
For those of you watching, our baby is sleeping.
Yeah, we've got the
monitor.
Yeah, so that means that when she's sleeping, we can take a nap or record a podcast.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a while since we've been here.
Yeah, welcome to season 2. Okay, no, there is no season 2. This is just like the next season of our life.
The page has turned. The chapter is new, right?
Yeah, and I've been listening to audiobooks and podcasts.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you're talking about life. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. And I've definitely taken a lot of naps while she has been napping, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And
what? I didn't know. Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah.
Okay, we didn't know the gender of the baby, and we decided that we wanted to wait until our baby came out. And if you didn't catch my gender reveal, we had a little baby girl. Yeah, her name is Grace.
Yeah.
And my goodness, thank you, Lord. She is a baby who lives up to her name. Mm-hmm. She has been so gracious to us as new parents. My goodness.
Because we've made lots of mistakes.
Yes. And like, oh my goodness, as much as babies do cry, she is a baby, but she is thankfully such, I think, a cheery baby. She's pretty happy.
Yeah, she's got like a personality of her own, that's for sure.
Yeah, as she is now, while we're recording, we have waited a few months. She's 7 months today. Mm-hmm. So,
while we're recording.
Yeah. Today as we're recording, so she'll be a few days older when we release this.
Yeah.
But yeah, for those of you watching, I'm also I have my mom bun in because this morning, you know, I did put makeup on.
That's good.
Yeah. But
no, I mean, you look great, but
yeah, I put makeup on because I was like, oh, we're gonna do our podcast, okay. And then it was like, oh, Grace, I think, was getting fussy, so I was like, okay, I'll just put my hair up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways.
And then I got my new favorite hat on because I'm a white hat, or a Toronto Raptors fan, I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, so today we wanted to just share with you, before Grace was born, we shared a little bit about the pregnancy, how that was going, and preparing to be parents.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm a mom, you're a dad.
What? Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And yeah, just like, I don't know, I'm pretty sure we shared this, that she is somebody who we prayed for quite some time. And
a couple years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how much, like, we praise God for her, and she's definitely a child of God. Mm-hmm. So, today, I thought, you know, we shared about the pregnancy, and we should share about how she came into this world, and it was definitely eventful.
It was, yeah. So we're going to be sharing with you our birth story.
Yeah, and so I thought, you know, oftentimes we hear about how, like, a baby came into this world from the mom's perspective. But I thought, Niels, you know, I was a little bit out of it from being in pain and other things that happened. So yeah, I'd love to hear it from your perspective.
So you started, because, you know, a guy's perspective is like right to the point. This will be over in about 5 seconds. No, I'm kidding. But it's a great story.
I will put notes in just to make sure, you know, you stay on track.
Yeah, isn't so I remember, like, you started going into labor, and this was like stuff starting at home Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And
do you remember what time?
4:35 a.m.
Good job.
No, I don't know. It was a lucky guess. I knew it was early in the morning.
It was 4:30 when I started to feel the contractions.
So close. I should have just said 4:30. Yeah.
Niels, I'm just gonna say this one because you were sleeping.
Yeah, that's right.
So my contractions, they were light and they started around 4:30, and thankfully I was able to sleep in and out until about 8 or around then.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I'll let him sleep in. And so I just got up and I was like, okay, I can deal with these contractions by myself. I'll just let him sleep in for a while. And then I think it might have been like around 10 that I came and was like, okay, Niels, just wanted to let you know that I am in labor. My water hasn't broken, so like we can just chill, but I thought I'd just let you know.
And I'm like, do we go to the hospital like right now? Do we go? Like, and sure enough, like, we didn't right away. And I remember we kind of just like enjoyed the day as much as we could, well, as you were going through contractions. We attended an online wedding of our friends Brett and Dixie.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and I remember like when there was like a song playing, and there's this move that the partner can do to help the spouse who's like in labor, and it's called like the slow dance. So that was a move we started getting familiar with.
Goodness.
Where it's like you kind of just hold the spouse and just slow dance. And how was that for you? Was that helpful?
Well,
probably more helpful at the hospital, but
throughout the whole pregnancy, for those of you who didn't watch how the pregnancy went, she was a wiggle monster. And so I kind of just continued the movements that I was making to make me feel better during the pregnancy, which was kind of just like moving my waist around in circles. And I think
yeah, that's right.
So I think that's kind of what we kind of did in the slow dancing. So it was just like helpful, because when contractions happen, it's really painful and you need somebody to hold on to support you. And so I am so thankful that I had you. Yeah, that's for sure.
And then hours had passed by, and I think it was maybe after midnight, and now we were contemplating going to the hospital, I think.
Yeah, I think it might have been just before midnight when it was like I was having contractions, and you're supposed to like time, okay, if they're this close together and it's been happening for this amount of time, then it's time to go to the hospital. And I just was like, okay, I just want to do this as much as I can at home, because I don't want to be in the hospital for so long. I want to like do as much as I can at home because it's more comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. You're in your crib, right?
I remember you're like, babe, should we go? And I'm like, no, let's just wait. And then I think it might have been around midnight. Do you remember what we did?
We started packing to get ready to go.
Probably. But we went out. Do you remember that? We went
for a walk. That's right. We went for a walk, like literally like around the block. Like,
yeah, because I think
we walked like by like 3 or 4 houses. Or did we walk around the entire block? I can't remember.
We might have made it like halfway.
Yeah, and it's not that big.
Yeah, because I think like a way that I had
we went around the bay, really. Yeah.
We had heard was that like if you go for a walk, that helps the baby move down the birth canal. And so we did that, but it was just like I can only walk so far. So yeah, we did that, and then we packed our bags, and I'm pretty sure we ate, because I was like, I had been told that, when you get to the hospital, you're in labor, you're not allowed to eat. So I was like, okay. Yeah, or whatever. No, I was told that you weren't
you're not allowed to eat at all. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I gotta eat as much as I can now, while in labor without wanting to puke. So there was that, and then we hopped in the car finally.
Yeah, and then we got to the hospital, and then this is where it started to, well, it kind of sucked for me, because due to COVID protocols, I was not allowed to, and these are the rules for like, I guess the hospitals in Winnipeg, is that I was not allowed to go into the triage with Gail right away. So I'm literally hanging out at the front. Like there's like the main entrance, and then you go to the right, and there's like chairs, like hard chairs to sit in, and I could see the security guard, as they're screening people in. So I'm literally hanging there for like 2 hours with like the suitcase and such and everything while you're in triage.
So I'll just take over for
No, yeah,
a
just
little
whatever.
bit.
Keep going.
So what basically happened was we got there and I remember, I'm pretty sure I like tried to beg them, like, seriously, really, can my husband really not come in? And they're like, yeah, sorry. And because one of the residents, I think, who had seen me when I was like not in labor at one of the doctor's appointments, he's like, yeah, I've seen some husbands or partners in with the person in labor. And I was like, okay, maybe I can get in. But no. So I got in and I basically was like, hey, I'm in labor, my water hasn't broke, but my contractions are X and X apart. And they're like, okay. So they took me in, and so when you go into labor, they check how much have you dilated. So that was the first thing they checked. And was I a centimeter?
Maybe about a centimeter, yeah.
A centimeter dilated. And I'm like, I have been in labor since 4:30 yesterday morning, technically.
Well, remember what you asked them? You're like, oh, it's a centimeter. Can I?
Yeah, so I wanted to go home. So it's like, okay, well,
let's go back to bed. We can like put it on pause, right? That's how this works.
Yeah, because I'm like, if I've been in labor for so much time already and I'm only 1 centimeter dilated, I'm like, can I go home and wait for like the rest of it to happen? And they're like, well, no. If you wanted to leave, you'd have to sign a paper saying leaving against doctor's orders. And I'm like, sure, I'll do that. And they're like, well, first, can we just keep you on like monitor, checking like your contractions and your blood pressure and all of those things, your heart rate and baby. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. Just, I want to keep my baby healthy and make sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then they came back in, and what happened then? What was it? It's all such a blur. I remember they came back in and they checked.
And then I think they said you were good to go a couple hours.
Yeah, they came back, and I think it was that they had taken such a long time to come back to check me. So I was in there for so long, 2 hours, you said, by myself.
Yeah. Because
I think it was that long that it took for them to come back and check me. And so they came back finally 2 hours later. First it was like, oh, okay, we'll come back in 20 minutes. We just want to see, how everything's going for 20 minutes. I was like, okay, fine, 20 minutes. And then they came back 2 hours later. So then finally they came back 2 hours later, and they said, was it 4?
4, yeah.
Yeah, it was 4 centimeters dilated. So it's like, yes, celebrate good times, come on. But it wasn't so great.
As of yet, because it was going to get harder.
Yeah. So finally they were like, okay, so your husband can come, and we'll come and get you to take you up to delivery. So this was about what time that you got?
It might have been about
4:30.
4:30, yeah, that sounds about right. And then
they were like, yeah, a bed is opening up. It shouldn't be too long. 2 hours later.
2 hours later, we finally leave triage.
Yeah.
And then get to go up to delivery.
Yeah. And triage, for those of you who don't really know, triage is basically like waiting. So it's like a waiting room with a bed, and it's not the most, not the nicest.
No, yeah.
It's like stopping at a truck stop with a bed.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it, yeah.
So then we went up to delivery.
Yeah.
And
like going up there, like the room was much nicer, a lot more space. It's at the Women's Hospital in Winnipeg.
What city do we live in again?
Yeah, exactly.
And
did I almost say Yellowknife? I don't
no,
know.
I heard it.
What was I gonna say?
Moose Jaw?
Moose Jaw? No, I was gonna say Manitoba actually, but yeah. It's all a blur. I'm tired. Okay, no, I'm kidding.
So for those of you who live in Winnipeg or Manitoba and are looking for a hospital, I would definitely recommend the Women's Hospital.
Yeah.
It is like, it's new and it's beautiful. The rooms are huge, and yeah, it's a great experience from my perspective.
Yeah.
As well as great as labor can be.
Yeah, it's good. So then, yeah, now we're up there, and now you're pretty much going through the labor stuff.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what everything that happened between then up until the event.
So I remember we got up there and
or I mean, I know what happened, but I'm just that's a bit of a blur. Yeah.
They asked me, okay, so do you want an epidural? Do you want like anything? I'm like, no, I'm gonna go all natural.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go as long as I can because I wanted to be hippie, and I was like, God has given me this strong body, and this is the way that he created us to, which is a miracle, let me say, that God has created a woman's body to be able to grow a human being and to deliver it, go through that labor and delivery.
I think that's what was actually really cool about the process is like throughout this entire time, like it's obvious like that there's a human growing inside, but now like as part of the delivery, it's like, oh, like here's her heartbeat. Or no, so they didn't say her, but they're like, here's the baby's heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And you could like hear it, or you could see the monitor, right? So it's like you could see mom's heartbeat, and then you could also see baby's heartbeat, right? So it's becoming like more and more like real. Like there's more life coming to this baby.
And it was really cool. They like attached these monitors to your stomach to see your contractions,
right?
And so we had like the monitors that showed like mom's heartbeat, baby's heartbeat, and the contractions, and it was like showed the intensity of the contractions, and it was like, yeah, I did that. I went through that. And that was encouraging to be like, okay, yeah, I'm still having contractions, because when we first got there, something that often happens to women is they contract really close together at home, then they get to the hospital and contractions get fewer and further apart. And so that was something that happened to us. So that was just like, that was not very encouraging. But then finally when we got up there, they decided, okay, well, let's try and help you move things along. So they gave me, did they give me
it was that
oxytocin.
I think it's called oxytocin. Yeah. That's like laughing gas, right?
No.
Oh no, that was later.
No.
Yeah.
So oxytocin is a hormone, and that's something that helps move labor and delivery along faster. It encourages your body, and so they started me on that, and that thankfully helped slowly but surely. And then
right, that's what I meant. And then after they tried to do laughing gas, which was probably just a
then they offered it, and finally I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And so they gave me laughing gas, and I'm pretty sure that it had nothing in it, but
because my jokes were not funny. No, I'm kidding. I refrained from jokes.
I was not really laughing. I think the only thing that helped was like, basically it's this, well, picture a helium balloon, like the case that the oxygen or whatever, an oxygen container, and so except it's filled with laughing gas, supposedly. So you put a mask on you, and you breathe into it to breathe in the quote unquote laughing gas. And so I think what was helpful for me was when I was going through those contractions, it was like, okay, put the mask on and take a deep breath. And so I think that alone, it was like placebo.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And because when you breathe in slowly but surely, that like helps, just like in like when you're feeling anxiety, you breathe and then breathe out. I'm trying not to breathe into the mic.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had that laughing gas, and so it just kind of was continuing to go through, and I don't. Yeah. Okay. So I think it was maybe before, or maybe it was after. So when I was going into the hospital, I was told that I wasn't allowed to eat anything. And a thing for me, for those of you who don't know, is I have epilepsy. And so I take amount of medicine every day, like 12 hours apart, twice a day. So I was told that I wasn't going to be able to eat, that they were like, maybe we can give you applesauce or Jell-O. And see, for me, my meds, if I don't eat like a substantial amount with them, I do not do well. My body just goes into like the room spinning. I'm close to passing out, or like I throw up. And so I was just like, okay, what do I do? And praise be to God, hallelujah, they allowed me to have food. So they got me, I think I had some sandwiches, and so that was really,
they were just so understanding of it. I found, like, I think, you know, I was gonna say this later, but I'll even say it now. It's like the staff at Women's Hospital, I think for me, other than the hiccup of not being able to see Gail at first, which they told me was probably going to happen anyways, like everything else seemed to be very, very professional and well handled. So they were really receptive and understanding of like, you know, your needs for epilepsy as well, and how to support that.
Side note, I'm trying to remember. Okay, because of COVID, you obviously have to wear a mask when you're getting into the hospital and blah, blah, blah. During labor, did they make me wear a mask?
I think it was here and there. They weren't like too picky on it. I know for me, like
you had to wear it the whole time.
Yeah, I wore it the whole time, and they never really like said, "Oh, keep your mask on." But they were just preferred, and so I just did what I could to keep it on as much as I could. Okay,
so. And for us, I don't know if this is normal, but there was somebody always in the room with us, just watching the monitors to keep watch, just make sure everything's okay. I don't know if it's because I was like a little bit of a higher risk because of epilepsy, but yeah. So I had my labor and delivery was moving along, wasn't dilating really much.
And then now we're starting to go into the evening, and I remember like the pains for you were starting to get like more heavier and more worse. Things were coming on much more stronger.
Because they also had upped the dosage of oxytocin to continue to try and make things move along faster. And I'm like, ugh.
Right.
And I remember being like, no, can you please not put it up anymore? And I'm like, well, we kind of have to if you want to deliver this baby.
To keep it going, yeah.
Yeah, because at this point it had been, my water hadn't broken, but I mean, I had been in labor, and it was just like my body's starting to possibly wear down, but yeah.
So I, like, you know, obviously you're going through a lot. You're tired. What I'm going through compares nothing to what you're going through. But for me, it's like I'm sleep deprived. Like I'm tired, emotionally exhausted, mentally exhausted. And then, like, yeah, now it's about 11 or 12 at night. There's been a nursing change. So it's me, you, and the nurse. And then you have something, which for me was hard to see, traumatic in that moment. After, like, you know, being really tired and exhausted, was that you then had a seizure. And so the stress of everything in the moment of the pain, I guess, got to your body, and suddenly you started having a seizure, and then you started to kind of like, we were holding you up, and then we put you down kind of on the bed. And I remember the nurse asked me, like, do you think this will go away in a minute or so? Or do you think I should call someone in? And she didn't ask like, oh, I don't know what to do. That wasn't it. She was more asking like, what's like happened in the past. And I'm like, this is the second time I'm seeing a seizure like this. Like, please call someone in. And then she radios in some code on her microphone. And I think the thing that hit me was about, and I'm not even exaggerating, like just under 10 staff came into the room, and they came in with like such intensity and like passion to kind of help, that like seeing them sort of rush in made me think like, okay, something is like not okay here. And then I sort of like just went into the chair. I sat down. I was breathing heavily, and I just began to like cry and like weep, and just bawl my eyes in that moment for a couple minutes. And then the doctor, who was likely going to deliver your baby, or our baby, you know, if it had come to that, she had just said, here, just like take a deep breath. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be okay. She actually just like, the doctor just put her hand on me while I was sitting down and saying, it's gonna be fine. Your wife is right there. she's healthy, baby's healthy, everything's being taken care of. And then eventually you came back too.
Yeah.
And then like after maybe about 5 to 7 minutes, although it felt like an hour, 5 to 7 minutes, another 5 people run into the room. And I'm just, and like thankfully, like, you know, things had started to kind of like sort of calm down ish, but it just made me more nervous. Like another 5 people came into the room.
So how many people were in the room?
I want to say just under 15 or so.
Wow.
Maybe a couple, like maybe 2 or 3 had kind of left or swapped in and out, but it just felt like I had seen just under 15 different faces. It's like they dropped everything to come, right? Because it's like, yeah, because it's like, you know, to backtrack a bit, it's like she just like radios something in like code blah 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 blah, and suddenly it's just a swarm of people, and I'm like, I just like get out of the way. And then and then they ended up like talking with you. And what's interesting is like when you have a grand mal seizure, you're sort of just like coming back and you're like, huh? Well, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
How's everyone doing?
Except
hi.
I can't really.
Except you can't really talk, but you're kind of like, what just happened? Like,
yeah.
And then I think we eventually told you like, yeah, like you had a seizure, you passed out, sort of.
Yeah. So for me, when I have grand mal seizures, for everybody it's different. For me, I'm completely out. I have no idea what's going on. And then when I come back to think finally, like I'm able to see and understand, like there's people. I am able to make sense mostly of everything in my mind, but verbally I'm not able to get things out. And so you ask me a question, I'm just like, bleh. Like I can make noise, but I can't get out the words that are in my mind making sense. And like then finally I'm able to get words out, but it doesn't really make sense. Like you ask me my name and I don't say the right thing, or but then finally after like, is it like 30 minutes?
About 30, yeah.
And
it seems like that's what it took, yeah.
Then I'm able to,
maybe a little bit faster, but yeah.
That's when I'm able to make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it was just like, okay, what's going on? Because I remember coming back to, and I was sitting on the side of the bed, and
that's what it was, yeah.
1 or 2 people were helping hold me up or something. And I'm surprised that I was able to have a seizure and not be lying down. Do you remember?
Yeah, I thought maybe they might have like either held you up or laid you down.
Okay.
That part was kind of a blur.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting in the chair thinking like, is this it? Like, is my wife okay? Like, is our baby okay? Right? Like, it's, you know, we had kind of like thought like, what are we going to do if this happens?
Yeah.
Right? And we know that like stress and fatigue are the triggers for you having a seizure. Yeah. Well, obviously, at that point, your body's under a lot of stress and a lot of fatigue.
Yeah. After being in labor from 4:30 a.m. the previous day,
and now it's like Sunday night going into Monday morning, right?
Yeah. So just, you know, like I did have like a little bit of a longer labor. I mean, they say when you have your first baby it's usually longer, but I wasn't expecting it to be this long.
So then I remember they had given you some like meds just so you could like chill out for a bit.
Yeah.
And then I actually fell asleep on the pull-out couch thing or chair or whatever that was there.
Yeah.
From like, I remember it was like 12 to 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And then when I woke up, or you kind of were like, Niels, and I'm like, yes. You're like, I'm dilated at this amount of centimeters. Could you please wake up? And I don't remember what it was. She's so polite.
So what? I saw he was sleeping, and like, so I slept, I don't know how much, maybe it was like an hour or something from those meds, or 45 minutes. And then I woke up and I was like, okay, this guy went through a lot, having just seen me have a grand mal seizure. So I was just like, I'll let him sleep. I can deal with this by myself for a bit. Because like the nurse was there too. So, sorry, what did you say?
And then I remember like, it was good that I slept for that time, but I remember my sleep being so restless that like after going through what I had just seen, that like part of me was trying to like wake up from the dream, or wake up from the sleep to just think that this was a bad dream, because I actually like felt like in that moment, because it's a bad dream, I can just snap out of it. But I actually knew like, nope, like this is reality. This is where we are. And it seems like such a like horrible time right now. The only reason it seemed horrible because it's just we've just gone through a lot, right? Like I think I was like, I wanted this baby to come, but I was more concerned about your well-being and in like what you'd went through, and it was tough to see you go through that.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, you hadn't met the baby yet, so
Yeah.
But
now it's like 5 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you telling me like about how like those dreams were for you. You were trying to wake up from this bad dream of me having a seizure while in labor and that, and yeah, I can hardly imagine what that would have been like for you. So yeah, so the isn't it OBGYN? I can't remember who comes in during labor.
It's called the delivery doctor. Yeah.
The doctor came in and checked me out, and they checked me, and I had dilated to the appropriate amount to start delivery, and so they came in and they broke my water a few times, and oh my Lanta. So they broke it, and just beware, there's going to be some words and pictures drawn right now. So
well, if they're already this far into the episode, I mean.
So fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
So they broke my water, and it was just like this, a big gush of liquid coming out of me, and thankfully, like, I was a little bit elevated, and so it was like not like right under me, but I was like, can you just like change the table a little bit, because I was like, I'm sitting in water. I don't want this.
Yeah, I remember they changed it multiple times. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, so some people, they're like, I'm so into this labor that whatever, but I'm just like, I'm uncomfortable, this is awkward, I don't want to sit in this pool. So they broke my water, and I think they changed it. I asked them to change it every time. And so I remember the nurse being like, okay, it's time to go. I'm off in 2 hours. Or no, maybe she's like off in 45 minutes. She's like, I'd love to meet this baby. And, or I'm like, I'd love you to meet him too. So
yeah, that was really funny.
Yeah. And so
the baby can come right now before my shift ends.
Yeah. But
some nurses are hilarious.
Our child was just, so happy in there. Backtracking a ways, at the beginning of the pregnancy and through the majority of the pregnancy, our baby was like really low, and so most people thought that our baby was going to be a boy, and I had my like tosses and turns. I was like, is it going to be a baby boy or is it going to be a girl? I'm so unsure. And so then at the end of pregnancy, she just went like right up into my ribs, and she was just so high up, and so she was just all cozy and happy up in there, and she was like, nah, I'm not ready to come out yet. And so
I remember you had pushed now for 2 hours, right? And then I think there was a pause. And then there was
I think they were just like, okay, let's give you a little bit of time, see if the baby will drop a little bit. They had tried to convince me to do a C-section
at the time. Yeah, that's right.
And I was just like, I really want to be able to just deliver this baby vaginally, as like, I have been, I don't know about other moms, but preparing myself for labor and delivery, I had, been like, okay, there's the possibility of this, the possibility of that. And the last thing was like, there's no way that I'm going to have a C-section. Like, everything's going to be fine. The Lord is going to take care of everything. And he did take care of everything.
Yeah, that's right.
But it was different than I had planned.
Right. So you had pushed for 2 hours. Then there was a bit of a pause, and then I remember you pushed again. I'm trying to remember what that pause was.
Yeah. So they gave us They gave me a little break. They said, okay, let's just give you a little break and see if the baby will descend a little bit more, because she was still so far up, I think. And
now I remember.
Was her neck...
Yeah, you know what it was? Okay, yeah, so you
right.
pushed for 2 hours, you gave a break, and then you pushed for... and I think they reached in, and then you pushed for another 2 hours, and then I think they observed that the baby's head was like straight up, like her neck was like this, and it needed to be more like tucked in.
So it was back, and it needed to be chin to neck.
It needed to be exactly
chin to chest,
something like that. It needed to be like more tucked in, and such.
So then I remember that they saw, okay, her heartbeat is
going up. Yeah.
And so this point, it's getting dangerous. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm taking away any selfish desires, and I've been through surgeries, so like I'll do this. Like, God, it's in your hands. And
they had said it's now time. We go for a C-section.
Yeah. So then.
And then now they were like, okay, pack up the room, and then we're gonna start to then move to the next room. So Gail's packing, she's carrying all our luggage. No, I'm kidding. So then I suit up into these the garbs or whatever, and then is that what they're called? The nurse outfit or whatever. Yeah.
Scrubs?
Scrubs, that's the word. Thank you. Yeah. I put on some scrubs, and then I remember we had texted some people to just pray for
you texted.
Or I texted. We talked about it. Yeah, and then sorry, my wife's not sending any text messages,
no.
Right? But she had said, we should text some people to pray, and then so we did that, and then
so basically, I went away, and then you were all by yourself.
Right. So I was then taken to another room to wait while they were taking Gail to prep, and they were like, "Don't worry, we're not going to be gone for that long. You'll be seeing your wife shortly." So I go with all our bags, and I go to like this waiting area where I'm just sitting there for an hour. I record a quick video for Grace, and I actually had been taking like videos throughout it, right? Because it's like my goal is to one day it's okay, I'll share this now.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, it's to one day, like maybe when she's older or a teenager, is to like show her these videos of like, hey, like these are the videos of like when you were born. So we were taking like little videos and vlogs for her. So I took like my last one, and I remember being like, hey baby, like I'm in a room, I'm hanging out, mom's okay, I'm gonna go see her soon, and then we're gonna meet you, and I just like can't wait. And then the thing that sucked for me was that it had been like an hour. So I'm like starting to get worried. I'm like, man, well, like what's happening? Like, I was like, what's taking so long? Like, and then the nurse comes in, and again, here's me like tired and just exhausted, getting excited now to meet our baby. Is that the nurse comes in, and she says like almost like these exact words. She just said, "Okay, your wife is all ready to go. I'm sorry, things have just taken a little bit longer. We have a lot of people training today." To which I said to her, "Well, that's reassuring." And then she kind of like picked up on my sense of humor and then like laughed, and then she's like, "Follow me." And then so I followed her, and now I enter into the room where you're now lying down.
Yeah, so I'll just rewind. So I went into the C-section room, the surgery room.
The surgery, right.
Operation.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what they're called. Anyways, I went into the room where they deliver the baby, a C-section. And for me, I, like, along the whole way, I was like, I cannot do an epidural. There's no way, Jose. Because I had a... back a few years.
Oh, right.
They were going to put a needle into my spine to inject steroids or something because I had really bad back issues, and so they did the needle, and that provoked a grand mal seizure. So I was like, I'm not doing that again.
No kidding. Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, we can do this other thing where they inject needles, but not as far into the spine, so it's not as as bad. So they did that, and so I remember like I was sitting on the table and I had to like curl my back over, and I was like holding a pillow, and it was just like, I'm having contractions and there's needles going to my spine. Stay still, Gail. Stay still. And so they got the needles in, and I got onto the table, and I remember just like, okay, now everything's numb, slowly but surely. And it just felt like my whole body was asleep.
Yeah. And when I walked in,
weird.
yeah, that must be weird, because it's like, and then when I walked into the room, like I didn't walk in from the angle of like the side in which they're going to be operating on.
Thank God.
But I walked in, you know, they had me walking in from where like your head is.
I could not, like, if I was you and I had to walk in and see my wife open on the table.
Well, like that other podcast we were just listening to earlier today about like that emergency C-section. I forget their names, but like the husband was saying when he had to go into the room, like he actually came in on the side where like it was like open.
So from her foot.
From her foot, right?
Yeah.
Like, and he was saying that because of like his tunnel vision, like he kind of like self-guided himself to her head. What are their names again?
Eric and Colleen.
Eric and Colleen, yeah. They've got like thousands of subscribers.
Millions
on YouTube. But yeah, so then I come in by your head, and then next thing you know, I'm just sitting down beside you and holding your hand. And were you gonna say something? Because I remember. Okay, so what was really funny was the nurses and the staff. You know, the ones in training. No, I'm kidding. But like they started to talk, and they're like, "Oh, do you guys know if it's a boy or a girl?" And we're like, "No, it's a surprise." And then I remember, like, I could hear one of the staff being like, "Hey, we're taking bets. Like, what do you guys think?"
I remember
they were literally joking and taking bets on like what the gender is.
I actually thought I was like, everybody here knows if we're having a boy or a girl, but apparently, I guess they didn't.
Well, and what's funny is like sometimes when they were talking about the baby, like I just remember even throughout like the labor and delivery, they were like, "Oh yeah, like her heartbeat's okay," or be like, "Oh yeah," or his he's doing good, or it's doing good, or they're doing well. So, like they would use different like pronouns. Is that what it is?
Yeah, because like
to confuse us
through the like OBGYN throughout the pregnancy, those appointments I had, like I heard he and she talking about our baby, and I'm like, so I remember going to you one time and I was like, they said he. I'm pretty sure we're having a boy.
And then I was probably convinced it was a boy for some time, but then I'm like, no, maybe they messed it up. Maybe they just tried to go neutral or whatever.
Because I think I had heard another time them say a she.
Right.
But a friend of ours, she is a labor and delivery nurse, and she was like, okay, tell me what the heartbeat is.
Right. She had this theory. Yeah.
So if the heartbeat is like through it while you're pregnant, if the baby's heartbeat is from this amount to that amount in the higher range, then it's a girl, and if it's lower, then it's a boy. So throughout the whole pregnancy, the baby's heartbeat was on the higher end, so she's like, I'm convinced it's a girl. So, and
it turns out she was right.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that I remember running this theory by my doctor, and he had sarcastically said, well, if that theory was true, we wouldn't need ultrasounds. I'm kidding, right? But no, but her theory, she was more, it was pretty bang on. So anyways, now I'm like sitting down beside your head, and I'm like, I don't know, it just felt so good to like be with you. I'm like, this is real.
Yeah.
And then there's like a curtain as well covering like from here, well, up. And then next
where's here?
Above the chest.
Yeah. So it was it under my boobs or above my boobs?
Well, you were also wearing the gown too, so they might have had a bit of like a, So then what happened is then next thing you know, Grace just appears, and they essentially put the baby over like the curtain, and I'm just looking at this child in shock, and I'm like, it's a girl. And I didn't like say it like, oh, it's a girl, or oh, like it could have been a boy. I was more in shock that it was a baby that had come out of her body. I was less concerned about the gender because the gender didn't matter to me.
Were you concerned? Is it brown?
But I was like, is it brown? Or is it, yeah, that's obviously running through. Yeah, we're a mixed couple. I'm going to joke about this. It's like, what shade is the baby going to be? No, I'm kidding. So then the baby comes out, and then I'm like, it's a girl. I'm like, oh my gosh, no way. And it was like the most amazing feeling. Actually, this is like a one way to describe it. If you've seen The Lion King.
Oh my goodness. This is something that he talks about like throughout our whole relationship. This scene is like,
yeah, the nurse holds it up and it's like, it's the circle of life. And then they take Grace off to the side, and then they start doing their thing on her, and she was only away maybe, well, just off to the side table. Was it 5-10 minutes or so?
Yeah.
And I remember one of the nurses being like, oh my gosh, she's got your hair, and oh, this is how she looks like mama. And then I just remember like taking videos and talking to her, and then she like squeezed my finger from her like tiny little hands and such.
She was so little,
just like so tiny and so little and so precious.
She was 6 pounds
14 ounces.
She was just a wee little one.
2:25 p.m. And and I'm like, this is real now.
Yeah,
we have a child.
Yeah. And she was just like her parents. She was like, I want to be on time. So she was like, I'm waiting inside of you until it's my due date.
She told everyone that it, like a while ago, like she started getting everyone ready early to make sure that she could get there on time.
Yeah.
And so she came on her due date.
Yeah. Which was like, you know, you could have just waited to start, you know, contracting. But she was like, you know, you're so nice and cozy, but I guess I'll come out now because the doctors are taking me out.
Yeah. So polite, just like her mother.
Yeah, she's so cute.
Yeah.
And I remember they put her on my chest when I was yeah, and it was just like, is this seriously mine? Like it was like a shock of like, this baby was inside of me and now it's out, and like, I'm a mom. What is this? It just felt so weird, and it took some getting used to. And like, yeah, so
it's like everything has changed, but it's like amazing.
Yeah, so then they took us to postpartum
or something?
No, it was like recovery.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, there was recovery, and then we went upstairs. Yeah.
So when they took us to recovery room, they put her on me, and she was just like a champion, and she crawled right to my nip, and target practice first try, she was right on.
She knew where the food was.
It's crazy how like God has created human beings with just that first instinct of like, you put me on my mama, I'm gonna find that food, and it's like straight ahead. And so yeah, ever since she eats pretty good. Yeah. And so I just remember she was so tiny, and it's so different now because she's so much bigger. It's just crazy. But yeah, then they took us to the postpartum room or recovery, whatever they call it after you have your baby,
right? Because then now we were there for another couple days.
So because I had a C-section, they kept us for I think 48 hours or something, because usually it's 24 if you have just an easy delivery. They say we'll keep you overnight, and then you're good to go. But because I had the C-section, they kept us in longer, which actually was like the hugest gift from God, because then we got like tutored, and
they were teaching us things.
We got taught for longer of like, okay, here's how you feed her, here's how you change your diaper, this is what you need to do.
I remember being confused when I saw that the poop was yellow and not brown, and the nurse was like, no, that's normal. I'm like, oh yeah, I do that. Do
you want to say what you
well, okay, I won't say what it looked like. A certain type of food dish, and I remember saying to Gail, I'm like, this looks like that, and we just like burst out laughing and such. And so
Yeah, so our first night with her was like pretty prime.
It was good. Yeah,
they were like, okay, you just have to feed her every 3 to 4 hours,
something like that.
And so I think we set alarms because we were like, okay, we gotta make sure we do this, and she. Yeah, so you woke her up at each time and she fed and then went through the day and everything was good. And then
the second night was terrible.
The night.
Yeah.
So, like I said earlier, if I don't eat a certain amount with my meds, things go wonko. So, I don't know if it was a mixture of, okay, well, first off was that they had heightened my medication because naturally when you're pregnant, the baby will take some of your medication out of your system into them. And so they had to heighten my dosage so that, it would still be the same amount in my blood. So I was still on the higher dosage. And I don't know if that had something to do with it or if it was hormones or what it was, but I took my meds at nighttime and that was not a happy night.
No, yeah.
Basically what happened was the room started to spin. My eyes could not focus. It was like going back and forth. And like I couldn't walk. And I just it was like I need to close my eyes and put my head back. Like I couldn't sit up straight or anything like that.
Yeah, it was terrible. Yeah.
And so like we didn't have formula. Like I was like I wanted to just breastfeed her, and so it was like I tried to feed her, but I was like I cannot focus and see my baby to make sure like I'm not suffocating her, and like I didn't feel confident that I was going to be able to like hold her up. And that was one of the most heartbreaking. I felt so bad, but I'm so thankful that I have a loving, supportive husband to be here by my side. And so you took the night to...
I did what I could, right? And then, like, they had formula, right? So then they were able to... the hospital did. So they were able to, like, come and help and assist while I bottle fed her and such.
And you got up with her every... Did she sleep much?
No, not really.
And because my meds were so bad, like I just conked out through the whole thing. I didn't hear like any of it. But you just had screaming baby all night.
Pretty much. And I'm like, well, this is it. I'm a dad now, so it's gonna be like
yeah.
And then now probably fast forward and then now later that day we're now starting to leave, filling out some paperwork, right? And I think just as we're wrapping up this podcast, the weirdest feeling I had leaving the hospital was like, it's me, it's you, and it's a baby. And it's like, I'm like, does the hospital know that they gave us a baby? Like, do they know? Like, like, do you know what I mean? It was like this weirdest feeling, like and so I'm putting the baby in the car.
Well, we put her in the car
seat, right, first.
And then we took her down and you left her and I at the door.
Right, because I had to go to the parking.
So you went and got the car. And I remember standing there and I was like, had this like biggest proud mama face on. I was like, my baby's so cute. She's not just like the like, oh, my baby's cute. And it's like, No, our baby's cute. Yeah. She's actually like, she's beautiful. Yeah. And I'm just, I'll brag about it. She's pretty cute. Yeah. But anyways, so I remember sitting there and was like, my baby's so cute. She's sleeping. She's not crying. She's beautiful. And like, I remember like turning the car seat so that like people could see her. And then we got into the car and I was like, I'll go and sit in the back because like I was like, I don't want to be driving with her.
That was a good
crying.
Idea. Right. And she was fine the car ride home.
She slept the whole way and she did not wake up once. We got her inside of her house.
And I remember as we were leaving the hospital, I'm like, okay, like they're literally letting us take this baby off the lot.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's a baby, not a car. I get it. But I'm just saying, it was like this weird feeling like no one's following us. Like, we're going straight from here to home.
Yeah, so we got our baby girl. We took her home, and it has been an adventure. It has been a ride, and man, I just am so blessed to have her, and I'm blessed to have you here by our sides. And
I'm proud of you. You're doing so good too.
I couldn't have done without you. So for all of you C-section mamas out there, like, props to you. And for all of you who do it the other ways too, it's like I don't know how it feels the other way, but for a C-section it's not easy, and it takes like your abdominal muscles have been cut open, so I couldn't pick up Grace, and I couldn't pick up anything or bend over, so I had a good strong help by my side, and maybe if you tune into the next one, maybe we can share a little bit about that.
And for our next episode, should we invite
we might have a little guest.
We might have a little guest on on the show.
Yeah. There's a good character. Yeah. She it's a girl, and yeah, you'll love her. She's such a great personality and very active.
Very active.
Yeah.
So that means she would only be on the show for a short time, but
yeah.
Oh, now you know who's coming. But anyways, I just want to, if you have anything else to say.
No.
Thank you so much for joining us today in our basement.
Thanks for joining us today in our basement.
Yeah, and before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and share this content in your social media platforms, and we hope to see you next time in our basement.